Hey, Mike Kennedy with you. And we have a $30 12-piece camping tool set from Walmart. It's at Ozark Trail brand. It includes if I can get the reflections off, a machete, a knife, paracord, a small axe, a flashlight, a fire starter, a sharpening stone, and 2 J-rings. So let's take a look, and we'll look at each tool. And what I'm going to do over the next week or so, hopefully, is try every one of these out and give you my impression. And talk about the difference between survival and camping and why things are certain ways. This is nice in that it has a sheath for everything, so you're going to be less likely to get caught on something. I watched this one of these survival shows, and one person had an axe, a much bigger axe, but they were carrying it back and forth, and they were kind of moving kind of quick. And I thought, oh, that's not going to be good news. And sure enough, the person slipped and cut themselves, and they had to tap out of the game and leave because of the problem. So, just showing you, here's a sheath for the knife. It's got a belt loop on it. It's got a plastic thing that makes it look like it locks. Here's the axe. And here's the one for the machete. And it's got a couple pockets on it too. Besides, this one has a loop. And then it has a loop that you can undo. Interesting. I thought we'd put some pieces glued or fastened. Glued, I guess. There we go. I thought we'd measure some of the things as I'm doing it. So, here we have first their knife. It's got a little protector on the end of it. Let's see. The knife is overall 9.5 inches. The blade measures approximately 4 3/4, and you'll notice this blade has a flat section and a serrated section. See, Ozark Trail, that's their brand. And this is always controversial. Some people love the serrated edge, some people don't. A lot of bushcraft people don't, because you tend to, when you're doing some fine carving, you tend to use this part of the blade, gives you the most control for carving. And with a serrated blade, you can't do that. You'd have to work up top, which isn't as exacting. But where a serrated blade excels is like cutting cords and kind of sawing through things. So, it depends on your use. This is a paracord handle. So if you needed some cordage with you, you could undo this, but then of course your knife's going to be harder to hold. Of course, you could rehandle this too. We might think about doing that. Okay, let's get the sheath for this. See how it fits in. Oh, this has got a Velcro top here. I guess this is to make it more secure so that you can make sure that your knife doesn't fall out. So there we have it in the case. Let's look at this next. Okay, we've got this very small axe. Okay, this is fairly lightweight. Now let's measure the cutting surface of this. It's a little over, it's about 3 inches, so it's actually smaller cutting surface than the knife, but and it's got these, if you happen to have those size nuts that you're dealing with. Again, we've got the paracord handle with a little bit left over for the lanyard. Warning, wear safety goggles, user and bystanders. They didn't include safety goggles with it. Let's see how the sheath fits. It goes in and Velcro's over. So there you go, there's some good protection. And it has a loop here too, although I don't know, the orientation of that loop looks odd to me. That would mean if it was on your belt, it would be carried this way. I don't know. We'll check into that further. Now, next up is the Machete. Gee, there's tool oil on this still. You can see the oil on it. Okay, Ozark Outdoor Equipment. Let's check this out. Whoops. So overall we're at 16 inches, and the blade appears to be roughly 9.5 inches if we just go down to the part where it cuts. It has this kind of serrated back that you could use for sawing, although you got to be careful doing that because you'd be holding it this way with the blade facing you. A lot of times these types of things don't work that great, so it depends on what you're doing, I guess, with it. Now, the thought just occurs to me, if we're thinking of batoning wood, splitting wood, we probably at all costs want to save our knife from doing that, especially because of the serrated edges. The serrated edges will get damaged, but we have the option of using the axe, although it's smaller. You might have to use a wedge to split the wood further. This probably you could baton, because say you've got a 4-inch piece of wood here, you could hit it here. I don't see any warnings on this about hitting it. Some of them do say that, believe it or not. Okay, let's look at this too. We appear to have a length of, it looks like paracord, but it might not be paracord. We're going to go online and get the specs, because they make numerous things that look like paracord that have lower ratings. I've seen some as low as 35-pound test. That means 35 pounds of pressure would break it. And, with the paracord, supposedly 550 pounds. And then I've seen some with 60 or 100. So we'll go onto their website and look at that up. Then we have a flashlight. Now, it says batteries included. Let's see if there are some batteries in this that maybe have a piece of plastic to protect them so they don't get used up. Yep, they do. See this we've got this little red piece here. We're going to take that out, put that back in. A lot of flashlights are sold that way. That prevents the batteries from, normally batteries are going to leak after they've been used a while. So we've got a light there, and we've got a zoom in, zoom out feature. And we'll look up the lumens for that as well. It seems like most of these pieces were available separately. Here we go with oh my goodness, this is different. It's got a very small ferro rod inside of a metal rod. That's kind of bizarre. I don't know whether they did that to be less expensive. I've just never seen one like that. I don't know if you can see that well, but there's let me try to get in closer. There's a small ferro rod, and then there's this other piece of material holding it. So definitely you're going to have to strike it on this. And, for emergency uses, I guess this would be fine, but it's not going to give you the wear and number of fire starts as if this was solid. So I'm kind of surprised they did that. Then we've got a very small sharpening stone as well. That's always an issue, is how sharp do the tools come when you have them. And we get these two little D-rings that specifically say not for climbing. They feel like they're aluminum. So let's just see if these are, I don't know if they're more or less made to go in the sheath that has the no, this This has some spaces here, but I personally I want to do that without having a piece of paracord in that. I guess I would keep that separate. We could put things in here that go all the way through maybe. So there we have with an overview. It's interesting with this. Someone that doesn't know this is set up this way might not actually get this to work, because I can see them scraping the wrong side of this. Unless for some reason this side is supposed to be a plastic that ignites easily, but I don't think so. And I'll have to check out. I saw on an individual package of this, the lumens. I think the knife and the machete come in individual packets. I'm not sure about this little axe or not, but the question is, can these tools be used? Obviously, as they say, any knife you have with you is the best knife. In other words, any knife that you have is going to be able to use to some extent for a survival type purpose. But when we're talking about a camping type purpose, then we have the ability normally, unless we're backpacking, I guess, is to bring bigger items, more rugged items. So I guess we have a further question, if these would be the type of items you would bring with you camping or not. So we'll have some follow-up videos, and we'll try to look at each thing individually.